Alright, let's keep on jamming back here at the back bumper. Now, I have made a bit of a command decision here. I think I'm going to build this piece here for the license plate bracket out of a separate polygon piece, separate polygon shell, if you will. And my reasoning behind that, the point that I'm doing that, is that I think it was looking at, was it this picture? Might have been this picture. But it's like we have such a strong crevice back here that even if these two are molded together, maybe they are molded together, it's really kind of tricky to say. It's going to be just darn impossible. Well, I can't say impossible, nothing's impossible, but really difficult for us to keep those one piece, and pointless, because nobody will be able to tell the difference anyways. So, we'll start building this now, and we'll start connecting the two together as we work. So, let's start off with the Create Polygon tool. And again, we work counterclockwise for our first polygon. Now, as I said a second ago, the shape of this, according to the curves, is pretty much correct as far as, you know, we have one piece out here, another piece that slants back. At the same time, we also know that we should probably be pulling things out a little more. We'll just kind of use the curves as a starting point, and we'll be ready to tweak the living daylight out of the thing. Alright, so back to object mode, start that over. We want the append polygon tool, click, curve snap, and clean that a little bit. Click, curve snap, we'll stop here, and curve snap. Press enter. Now start building in this direction. Click, curve snap, because we have that sort of difference in height. Same thing here, and we can curve snap and then click on this edge and close that in. And then here I'm going to do something a little bit unorthodox that I'll clean up later. We'll just make a triangle. Because really, I mean, in the model, that's what it is. Those actually meet at a triangle. It's just how it goes. And we'll grab all three of these edges, like so. And let's extrude these straight over in X. Now I'll grab their resultant vertices, and I'll click on the X-axis, come over here to a top view, and I'll just grid snap these over. Now it looks like I left retain component spacing on, so let's go over to my tool settings, make sure I switch that off, reselect the vertices just to be safe, click on the X-axis, and now if I X-snap, you'll see everybody snaps right up to the axis, and everyone is happy, especially me, and that's important. Okay, now if we were to dig around through some of our other photos, let's see, do we have anything that shows the license plate on this guy? Not really, so we can get out of that folder. How about over here? Now, a lot of these are interior shots, and a couple of shots of some of the custom rims you can get on this thing. So nothing that really helps us there. Over here we've got this, and we can kind of zoom up on this. I'm thinking maybe this and the Roadster have slightly different pieces. I mean, it's could be just perspective, but it looks like there's a slight difference in angle here, and really that's about it, and this just kind of fits in back behind the bumper. So let's get this out of the way. Let's go back over and take a look at the bumper. Now I would like my bumper to basically come up here and connect, and then we kind of need to round things off a little bit. So, let's take a look, of course, at how we can do that. Let's grab our, not split vertex, go back to object mode and get my split polygon tool so I can be really careful with how I want to do this. We could simply begin by splitting all the way down this edge. If we want to keep all this quadrangulated. But it's looking more and more like it would be wise of us to maybe start pulling some of this detail back out of our way. this. Like so. Alright, and now we can start controlling this rounding. We'll pull these back a bit as well. Might have to make some adjustments to the topology here, but I'll examine that here in just a minute. First, let's see if this works. Okay, we'll extrude these over to give ourselves a little more detail. And probably be wise of us to start snapping all of this detail so it lines up in X. And I had totally just lost track of which direction the X-axis pointed in. It's a good thing that I just did that. Okay. It's like it'd be nice if we had an edge leading in this direction, which will result in a triangle if we do it this way. Of course, we could split that triangle here, and now it's really no longer a triangle. It is a quad. And have a little fun with that quad to kind of straighten it out a bit. So we could pull this down, create a little bit of rounding with it. Let me control-click out the Z-axis for a moment. Alright, I'm thinking these are going to be really close up here. Okay. So we'll leave that for now. There's probably still some more tweaking that'll have to be done to it, but we'll build on that slowly. Back to this area. Let's center up its pivot and slide it forward a bit. Now we have this edge here on the bottom that we need to extrude. So we'll pull this down and then tuck back underneath so that more accurately represents what's there. We can, if we plan on smoothing this out, which might not be a bad idea, although it is so soft, we can probably get away without it. We could just connect that edge down to here, and that would obliterate that triangle. Let me see, though, if I can get away with modeling this in such a way that we don't need to smooth it. Just leave it the way it is. I mean, of course, I reserve the right to change my mind. But, let's see. We'll pull this up. And this needs to be tucked up underneath as well. And we'll pull this up. And the basics of the shape are there, which is good. That's one of the things I was a little bit concerned about. And maybe we'll roll this back a little bit. Push these out. We do want these to be planar back here. So if you need to create planarity, first off, remember that Maya doesn't, by default, have a make planar script. And rather than kick back and write one for you, what we'll do is we'll take the cheap and easy way out. And we'll just snap here and here, which creates a straight line. and here and here. And if you weren't paying attention or you blinked or reached over to grab your popcorn while I did that, that was just a couple of EP tool curves that were snapped as straight lines. So now I can go into wireframe mode. Let's frame up on this vertex. Pull away, snap. Pull away, snap. And pull away, snap. Pull away, snap. I mean, you could have done the same thing with a polygon, and there's all kinds of ways you could have done that. That's just one method. Alright, so we have 5. That's all nicely planar now. And we've got this sort of interesting shape, again, back here at the back bumper. Could go about attaching these. I just don't quite think that that's going to be called for in this case. Let's grab vertices. Let's grab verts here, and let's pull this down to the level of the bumper. This, of course, can be pulled down with it. Now, we're probably going to have to chop this out. In fact, let's go ahead and kind of get that out of the way. We can grab our split polygon tool and split all the way up here. And just simply remove this polygon. And that's a start. And we have some verts here on the bumper itself that we can slide backwards. Let me see if moving these in normal mode will help us out a bit. I'll bet it will. Yeah. Okay. And there is a picture, I believe it's right here, that shows what's actually going on here. So there's the underside of the license plate piece that we were just working on. Here's the bumper kind of curving up, and the bumper ends. Everything chisels inward, and we have this sort of interior black shell, which is going to wrap around our 2 exhaust pipes. So let's make a few adjustments here. Just grab my move tool and go back to world mode. Control click on Z for a moment and kind of round those out. And it does dip down inside, so my angles are pretty much correct, it would seem. And we can slide this over, help kind of clear that up. So I'm imagining that if you were to view this area of the bumper from up above, you'd end up seeing the top of that black shell. So we'll keep that in mind, because that'll probably help us create this much more realistically. There's actually a trick we could use to create that black shell. Now, this is I use this little trick a lot in character modeling when you have to start off creating edge loops. So see if you can use your imagination and see what I'm talking about to apply it in that regard. But what I'm going to do is come back here. Now let's find this vertex right here at the corner, so I know pretty much where to start. So we'll begin right about there. And we'll deselect, go back to object mode, and let's start off, deselect everything, thank you. And we'll grab the create polygon tool. And what I'll do is create a polygon that more or less outlines that shell that I need to create. Now it's way up there right now, so let's go to modify, and we'll center up the pivot, and we'll slide this back, frame up on it. You can see how it kind of nicely fits there into the hole. Now we'll grab this face by itself and extrude it So pull back, pull down into, of course, the angle that we need all of this to match up in. Give it a certain amount of length. Now, we just grab these two polygons, delete, and there you go. So there's a really good start for that shell. Probably take this piece and nuke it out as well. And always pay attention to your normals. And now a lot of you watch that and you know exactly which way our normals are facing. If you don't, let me turn these on real quick and you can see for yourself. All of our normals in this case are facing outward. So if we were to take this this whole contraption, and let's switch over to faces, grab all these faces, extrude them, push them in. There you go. So now we end up with a little bit of thickness around this shell. So more or less we created it very quickly using a couple of shortcuts. Okay. Now, let me come back in here and switch our polygon normals back off, because they're officially in the way now. Take another look here. There's the shell we just created. Nice and quickly and easily. So now we can just kind of start building up and around that. Again, we don't have a lot of reference material to show us exactly what this shape looks like. So we as the modelers have to basically step up to the plate and make it up, is what it amounts to. I'm going to grab all of these edges here at the end of the bumper. I'll extrude these. Start off just by pushing them back a little bit. Now, I'll take this little sleeve that I created and I'll Control H it out of the way. Now, I'm going to grab some verts and we'll snap that back here. Merge those together. I'm going to Control click on X for a moment. I'll just start pulling these guys backwards. So you'll notice I'm just creating some thickness here. Do the same up here. Now notice I'll pull up at a 45-degree angle so that I can grab each of these edges, or both of these edges, and we'll extrude these upward. Grab this one little extra vertex, and we'll snap him over here. Grab these two and merge them together. Now just a little bit of tweaking. We've created some thickness for that area. Okay, and let's grab these two edges a little bit and extrude them inward. And I'll pull them, actually let's go over to world mode. I'll pull them down a little bit in Y so that we have a little bit of thickness to work with. And now we'll hit Control-Shift-H. And there's that sleeve again, which is a little bit too far forward. I mean, just a hair, because that should be flush, or actually a little bit behind the back of the bumper, but that's fine. I mean, that was just a start anyways. Let's get our Move tool, try and see what normal mode will do for us. Not much in this case, that's fine. We'll just go back to world mode and make it up. Pull this back just behind the edge of the bumper. And what we'll do is we'll just snap these in Z back to their neighbors over here. So all of that lines up. We can come up here to the top view and kind of see how things are aligning. It looks like the back bumper could use a little bit of cleanup, like maybe grab all of these verts and snap them in the Z axis. For starters, anyways. So I'll just tweak these out a little bit. Excuse me. And, okay. So what if I hit Control tilde on this? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a great start for it. No problems there. We do want to take just a moment, though, and grab some vertices here, and snap these over, like so. I've got two selected, so we'll merge these together. Let's go back to normal mode, and we can slide these back in U. Now, this much of the bumper, of course, won't be visible as far as the thickness is concerned. But it'll be a good idea to go ahead and get it in place. Alright. So that's a good start there, I think. A couple of things I wanted to do back here. Now, I know, again, I'm bouncing around, but I've looked at this long enough. I think it's time to go look at something else for just a bit. I'm going to grab all of the back edges here. And let's extrude these backwards in Z. And maybe tuck them down a little bit. More or less just putting that area in with a little more detail so that we can kind of keep it in shadow a little bit longer. Can also, this is something I hadn't really planned on doing, but it'll probably work out well for us in the long run. I'll grab these edges here, and let's extrude them inward. And we can just take this vertex here and, well, go back to world mode so that we can snap again. We'll snap that over, merge vertices, we'll merge those together. And it just puts this in an area of deeper shadow, such that later on, if we just build kind of a box around that, we probably won't have to address it ever again. And I guess that'll take care of that. Looking nice so far. Okay, well, let's take a moment and jump up here to this kind of bar that creates the main frame of the trunk area to which our panels in the back are going to end up attaching. And you've all probably guessed how we're going to start this, because it's very similar to how we've been doing the rest of the model. Let's go ahead and grab our Create Polygon tool. And quick snap. I'll go ahead and point snap, and then curve snap again. I should probably do another point snap. Keep this all lined up and level. I don't know what that just snapped to, but that's okay. We'll re-snap it when the time comes. Looks like I grabbed the wrong vertex. Might not have had a choice. Let's take a look at our wireframe. Yeah, indeed. It's okay. We'll just curve snap it up here and take a look at what we have. All right. Curve snap it down one to the polygon down here. Excellent. Okay. Now, there's some extra curvature we probably don't really need anymore. Like, I can take this curve and we can nuke it out just to get it out of our way. And probably the same with these two curves, because they're just going to confound the issue. Alright. So now we come in here and grab our Append to Polygon tool. And we start doing the snap routine. Oh, looks like I ran into the edge of a polygon. Let's try bringing that down a little bit further. Okay, that gets us started here very nicely. Looks like we still got a little bit of lumpiness that we could take care of here. I'm going to remind myself to come back and address that a little bit later. Alright, now, actually let's grab our folder of pictures, and this picture in particular will be of importance, because it allows us to see how we kind of slope down toward the trunk in the back, and then there's kind of a blackened wall that we don't see in here. Alright. But in the meantime, just to get us up to the next level, we can grab all of these edges. We'll extrude them. And I'll switch over to vertices. Let's curve snap, and then curve snap over and over again. Whoops, looks like we snapped way down there into outer space. Just make sure we get that snap down there to that edge. Now there's probably going to be a little bit of tweaking to be done up here to the roof, but I won't worry about that right now at this moment. We will get there. And let's see, taking a look at this photo, it looks like this should be coming all the way down to where the little trunk-like flattened area is going to start. It also looks to me like we need more of a dramatic angle here at the bottom. Like, for instance, that this part of the back fender needs to basically be brought down. Now the catch here, the drawback, is this is going to change this angle, which means we'll have to tweak all of these verts back out again. But, you know, that's how it goes sometimes. So what I'm going to do is pull this down. Let's take just a minute here. We have 1, 2, 3 of these, and then one that is kind of in line with the trunk itself. And we can verify that here, because you can kind of catch the reflection, so that's all, I guess, kosher would be the word. So what I'll do is we'll curve snap this down, kind of check things out in the top view for just a moment for reference sake, and that looks fine. Let's frame up, and now it's just going to be a matter of adjusting all of these vertices to correspond. I guess I'll pull this guy out just a little bit. And what I'll end up doing is we'll take each of these verts and we'll just move them down in the y-axis to the point we want them to be. Let me see if I can get away with snapping a bunch of them. Because I'm thinking, personally, I'm thinking that that edge is relatively flat. There may be some slight curvature to it, but we can get started by snapping everybody down in the y-axis. And it looks like down is the last place that is. Again, I've kind of lost track of which way the axes are pointing. So we'll just grab these and pull them down and down. And we get really thin by the time we get down here in the end. And it looks like we're going to end up with a similar shape back here. So that's a good sign. I'll pull that out a little bit further just as a matter of preference. And just very carefully clean each of these up. Now, of course, this leads to an interesting situation with this piece that we just created. So I'm going to grab this curve to which we snapped everything. And let's get its control vertices. I'll take this CV and we'll snap it down here, like so. And well, I guess that's about the only change I want to make. So now we'll grab vertices here on this shape, and we will curve snap. A second time, taking this new curvature into account. And see, now you get a nice reminder of how handy those NURBS curves really are. So yeah, nice shift in curvature. Everybody stays clean all the way up. That's exactly what I was shooting for. Okay, so now, where to? There's a lot of cool things going on here. We have a panel across the back here. We've got the little flip-up airfoil-ish sort of thing that is going to pop up back here. If you haven't seen this, I think somewhere in here I've got a picture that shows it. This tells you where it is. Anyways, this strip of yellow right here across the back part of what I'm going to erroneously call the trunk, this flips up a little bit, and I imagine provides more downforce for the car. I think somewhere in here I've got a picture that shows it flipped up. But I won't dig around too seriously for it. I'll just come across it later and go, oh yeah. Okay. But anyways, we have that outlined with NURBS curves right here. Alright, so moving along from here, let's go back to this piece that we've been working so diligently upon. And, whoops, I don't want him. I want to grab all of these edges. And let's give them an edge extrusion that we will move down in world space to start creating that actual thickness for the trunk area. And we can clean this up. For now, we'll keep it relatively simple. Just make sure that each panel is still going to fit. And by panels, I mean these glass sheets back here that cover up the engine area. See, now you start to realize why we created those extra curves to help show where the panels are going to be. Now, it looks here like that edge where the panels connect doesn't really come straight down, and maybe we can get a clearer idea of that here. Maybe not, because it is black. But because we see the highlight from these panels, notice how it just kind of ends here. We can kind of probably infer that this comes in a bit at a tilt. So we'll use that to our advantage. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. Come back over here to perspective. And I'll just start off simply by grabbing each of these verts. And we'll pull them in a bit. Yeah, which kind of starts to coincide a bit more with what we see. What I'll do is I'll just run this a little more parallel with each of these lines. This is another one of those areas we're probably going to have to make up a little bit, but fortunately, if we're off by just a tad here, there's not going to be really any way to cross-reference it. So no worries. Again, we have that kind of area over the hood we're going to have to tweak out a little bit once we get done here, at some point anyways. Alright, let's create some of these glass panels. And these should be remarkably easy for us to build. We'll just deselect. Let's grab our Create Polygon tool. And, well, curve snap, curve snap, curve snap, curve snap. So there's a start. Make sure these verts on the end are, in fact, snapped over to the x-axis. And they are, so that's good. And really, I guess all we need to do is start making some splits that we can tweak out. I'll turn on my magnets for now, and we'll do a halfway split. I don't think we really need much or any detail in this direction. I'll make a total of 4 segments across the top of the thing so that any sort of rounding we want to do, we'll have the power to put that in. And let's grab vertices. I'll just take the second row in, make sure they're nice and level with the guys in the middle, and then gently pull each of these up. It looks like the guys at the end could come down just a little bit, maybe, possibly. I'm also thinking that there's a little bit of elevation here. Like, these aren't perfectly flat. I'm thinking they're going to roll off toward the rear, which only makes sense because if you were to drive this car where there's any sort of rain, not suggesting you do that, you'd want there to be some sort of back slant so that moisture would roll off that way and not end up going inside your engine compartment. Okay. Looking pretty good. We can also kind of interpret, if you will, that we can pull this over and more or less plug it in to the side of this this little beast here. Also, looks like we can pull these forward. So there's some rounding from above we need to kind of take into account. Because it looks like there's some really subtle, I guess soft would be the word for it, rounding in this direction on each of these planes. Alright, and let's go over to faces. We'll grab each of these, extrude, push in just to create the tiniest bit of thickness. Delete. And really that's all there is to it. There's one plane created just for you. Now, each of these, I'm guessing, are supposed to be the exact same size. So building one means that the others should be built. The trick is, I think in our curve network, which we were building in sort of an arbitrary manner, might not have been created in such a way where all of these are the same size. So we may need to make minor adjustments, which is okay. Notice I just centered the pivot on this duplicate that I created, and you can also immediately see that we have a difference in size taking place here. So we will need to kind of remember that. Now, do we have any pictures over here in my stack of stuff that kind of show these panels? Because that would be something nice to look at. Everybody always wants to show off the engine. You know, you can see the engine, people. Well, actually, some of them you can't, because one of the options I have seen, as I've been looking at a lot of photos of this car, is to have all these panels blackened. In fact, they're blackened here. On the little die-cast model that I have, they're glass, so you can see all the way in, which is kind of cool, in my opinion. Alright, now, out of curiosity, I wonder, just I haven't actually gone and popped the hood or trunk or whatever you want to call that back here on these guys. But I wonder if that is a flat... No, probably not. Sorry. I wonder if that was like a flat plane that actually covered the engine if you went ahead and darkened these, but probably not. Anyways, back to my train of thought. Let's see here. If I were to take a look at the top view, we've got a couple of things here we could tweak out, like this panel that we've created could be pulled back to end actually where it's supposed to end, which would help out a lot. So we can adjust that. There's some further adjustments that need to be done here, but I'll get to those in their own due time. Then looks like this piece, I mean, we could more or less scale it up, and it would be exactly the way it needs to be. But I'm thinking what we could do is maybe grab the two of them together, and, whoa, we need to center the pivot on this guy too, so modify, center pivot, and grab, if we just scale them up slightly, then they start to kind of line up more appropriately with the way they should be aligned. Let's see, let's kind of meet halfway. We'll scale this guy up and then slide him back a little bit. Yes, we know that he will no longer line up exactly what's going on here in the top view, but it does allow each of these panels to be closer to the same dimension to one another, which I like. In fact, here's an idea. I wonder how well this would work. We'll get that out of the way. Well, okay, fine. I won't undo all the way back that far. We'll just take this duplicate and we'll kill it. Let's center the pivot again, because I undid everything I just did. And let's go to Edit, go to our duplicate options, and let's set this over to Instance, at least for a moment, and we'll apply, reset the settings, and close. And here's our second sheet. And there we go. So now any adjustments that I make to the one will automatically take place on the other. And the reason I did that was because it looks to me like there might be some tweaking that needs to be done to kind of straighten these vertices up. And I'd rather not have to do that on each individual piece. And being able to tweak all three together will be kind of nice. In fact, let me go ahead and create another instance up here. So edit. Now you'll notice that even though I needed to do another instance, I went ahead and reset my settings. That time I didn't, so my very next step will be to go over to my duplicate settings, reset, and close. Because I'm paranoid about leaving that set to instance, because a lot of times you come in here and you just use good old Control-D, and that can lead to some serious problems down the way. So if we pull all of these forward, I can probably call that just about even. We'll just plug that in. This won't make any difference one way or the other. Alright. Grab this vertex here at the corner, slide back a little bit, just so we get some nice plating effect. And we'll grab this piece, he can come down a little further. This piece probably move up a tad. Yeah, I think that's going to work out pretty well. Finally, we have just a sort of a flat plate back here that acts as kind of part of a trunk-like area. I know it's not a trunk, it's just kind of a panel back here. So, let's get that created. Deselect, I'll grab the Create Polygon tool, and we'll use our tried and true method of laying down 4 quick starter points. And once again, I'll make sure that these verts are snapped in the x-axis. I think they were to begin with, but I'm just being careful. And let's go back here to object mode. Whoops. I just want the split polygon tool, thanks. And we'll do something very similar to what we did to those original glass plates, because we don't need a whole lot of detail here, but I wouldn't mind just enough to create some subtle curvature. So we'll flatten that area out, pull this up, and there you go. Now let's just grab edges to add thickness to these. And we'll extrude these edges downward, because all we need is some general thickness for this. Tweak out some verts. And I think that will do for the time being. We'll go ahead and end this video here, and I will pick back up in the next video. Thanks.